Hey, it's Dan. We actually just stopped recording, but Ty is making omelets, and Ed Orgeron got fired. And it's been talked about for a little while, to be expected, but it became official. He's going to coach out the season, and even after the win over Florida, the impressive win with how Ty Davis-Price ran completely wild on the Gators, that Scott Woodward, the LSU AD, didn't want a positive bounce like they had with Les Miles after he won more games, and a lot of emotion surrounding Les Miles and his time in Baton Rouge. So they made it clear that the buyout is in place and Ed Orgeron will not be the LSU coach after this season. And it's obvious why it happened. Obviously, LSU as a program losing games these past couple years. The hires at coordinator last year with Bo Pelini and Scott Linehan. And then this year, younger guys who at times seem promising on both sides of the ball at coordinator, passing game coordinator, whatever. But it just long-term doesn't seem like the answer. And now some of that is off the field, a lot of changes in Ed Orgeron's personal life. Brody Miller wrote a story for The Athletic that outlines some of that. And also some of the controversies that sprung up on campus, especially surrounding Darius Geis, that it just all was an increasingly bad look on Ed Orgeron as head coach at LSU. And then it's all magnified with the lack of continued success after that 2019 national championship run with Joe Burrow, Joe Brady, the ridiculous receivers, Dave Aranda. And now we're at the point where LSU, which is an incredible job, it's a sensationally good job, one of the absolute best in the country, if not arguably the best, given that Les Miles and Ed Orgeron, and obviously before that, Nick Saban, won national championships. The local talent, the attention that you get at LSU in the SEC, in the SEC West, it's a great job, unquestionably. A great job in a great stadium with a loud, supportive fan base and administration. Everything is there for LSU to be national championship contenders more often than not. The names are interesting, though, about where LSU goes moving forward. Now, of course, James Franklin now being talked about with both the USC job and the LSU job. I think the LSU job is a better job, but, maybe LA, California, or maybe just another round of making more money from a raise because of the leverage he has. If Penn State continues to have a nice season, we'll see. But James Franklin, a dicey history, I would say, at Vanderbilt, of course, the way he left there with the off the field stuff, it should not be looked past, but he has won in the SEC at Vanderbilt. So that's something, and he would recruit crazily well at LSU and has hired really good coordinators in the past. Of course, going back to Joe Moorhead, Brent Pry, Bob Shoop, guys have had tremendous success coordinating offenses and defenses for James Franklin at Penn State. And all of the other names. I mean, Jimbo was hired by Scott Woodward, the current LSU AD, and, it's to be expected that there's no price limit right now on who LSU wants. If they get their guy, price will not stand in the way. That seems obvious, given especially what Scott Woodward was able to do with Jimbo Fisher, whose name is certainly going to come up given his past, but I don't think he's going from A&M to LSU. I don't know. There's just too much money in that specific regard, but we'll see. I don't know if Jimbo's especially motivated to leave Texas A&M for any reason, if he misses Scott Woodward, if he misses Baton Rouge. Who's to say? Money talks, it seems, especially with Jimbo. Luke Fickell's name is going to come up, especially now that he is coaching the number 2, number 3, whatever he ends up being, team ranked in the country in Cincinnati. They've developed a quarterback. They've worked the transfer market really well. The defense has been obviously great. They gave Georgia all they could handle in a bowl game last year. Matt Campbell's name is going to come up with every single job. I don't know that he's a fit, but he's a great coach. And LSU could certainly do much worse. Lane Kiffin is interesting. Lane Kiffin doesn't mind moving. Lane Kiffin doesn't mind finding a better situation and attaching his name to it. He is, I think, doing something really interesting and good in Oxford for Ole Miss, and that defense, he's got a presumed Heisman candidate in Matt Corral, but who's to say he can't do something bigger and better in Baton Rouge with even more local talent and more available to him at LSU. That's an interesting name worth watching. But we'll see. We'll absolutely see. And it was rumored that Ed Orgeron was actually thinking about bringing in Lane Kiffin to LSU, but that obviously didn't work out as offensive coordinator. Mario Cristobal's name, understandably, given the success he's had at Oregon and how well he's recruited and with his SEC experience, his name has come up as an Oregon fan. I think that's fine. I think that'd be fine. I think if LSU wants Mario Cristobal, I don't know if I'd be heartbroken. I'd be disappointed. but I don't know if I'd be heartbroken. But you can understand why he's an attractive candidate, especially if he can find a quarterback, get an offensive system humming, and the talent that's available in LSU territory. I mean, it's amazing. Mel Tucker's a name I saw. Bruce Feldman had a list of names from The Athletic. Mel Tucker, in just year 2 at Michigan State, this was a program that was kind of a disaster, especially on offense. And now even when they're not great on offense this year, they're winning. They're an undefeated Michigan State team, and we're almost at Halloween. So Mel Tucker's done a great job. You look back at his time at Georgia, you understand why he's a candidate. He is a good coach. He resonates with people. He recruits. Now, going from Colorado to Michigan State to LSU in a span of 4 years, it's not the best look, but, it's a ruthless business, and on a certain level, I get it, because jobs of this caliber only open up so often. So, yeah, we'll see. Mel Tucker's interesting. Billy Napier's had a lot of success in Louisiana, but for whatever reason has not been able to either find a fit for himself, or schools have not been able to sell themselves to him successfully enough. Dave Aranda is a name that I'm exceedingly curious about because of what he's done at Baylor in 2 years. 2 years. Baylor's humming right now. They're winning games different ways. They just won a game without committing a single penalty against a top 20 BYU team. Not an amazing BYU team, a good BYU team. Quarterback play has developed. The defense has developed well. Playmakers on both sides of the ball. And he seems to just have his act together. Now, it's been 2 years making the move from defensive coordinator for Ed Orgeron at LSU to Waco, where he's obviously grown the Baylor program into something that seems to be ascending. I think it's interesting. I think it's definitely interesting. We heard about his aspirations of becoming an NFL coach, a head coach, a coordinator, whatever, and that LSU is a faster path to that probably than Baylor. But then again, Matt Rule just jumped from Baylor to the NFL. So that's an interesting name with LSU ties and familiarity, and has been within that program, has interacted with the sort of power brokers at LSU. So there's a confidence and a familiarity that I think is at least interesting. And I think that's it. Now, there are other names, but man, the LSU job is a great one. It's an absolutely great one. And it'll be fascinating to watch, because this team, even though they're down this year, even though along the line of scrimmage we saw struggles against Kentucky and UCLA, schools that they shouldn't be struggling with up front on both sides of the ball, this is a place that can get it turned around in a year or two in a big way. So this will be a fascinating coaching search to watch. It's the best job on the market right now. Apologies to USC. It's just easier to win at LSU, even playing in the SEC and the SEC West. USC is just trickier to me. So I don't know. Pay attention. I'm sure you will be. You're watching this video, and we'll all see what happens together. I'm rooting for something fun and interesting. It always seems to be the case with LSU. Hey, and if you don't listen to The Solid Verbal, give us a subscription. Give us a listen. Write a good review if you have good things to say. That'd be cool. My name is Dan. The co-host is Ty. He's not here right now. And we'll talk about this more on the show. The Solid Verbal.